Our coverage continues of the race for governor in North Carolina. And so for much more, we now want to bring in another candidate for the governor's seat there in North Carolina, Libertarian candidate Shannon Bray. So Mr. Bray, thank you so much for joining us. You have previously ran for U.S. Senate, so some voters in North Carolina are familiar with you, but you are running as a Libertarian. So why run now for the governor, especially as in a third party where it's tough to kind of get your name out there as a third party candidate?
Exactly. Thanks for having me. Well, it all kind of starts out with we want to ensure that the voice of the independent voter is heard and also represented. There's a lot of people who don't identify with the Republican and the Democratic parties. So it's really my job on this particular race is to try to elevate a third party message. And quite frankly, this is one of the best opportunities we've had in 20 years because we don't typically have primaries for the race for governor or even the race for, federally for the Senate. A lot of times that candidate will go all the way through. So we have the unique opportunity now to where Mike Ross and I both get out there, both have libertarian messages, but then also debate each other, on our differences as well.
What's something that if elected governor or you're able to win past this primary and then go into the general election and become governor, what's something day one that you would do in office?
Well, the economy and education are equally up there. One of the first things that I would do day one is I would legalize marijuana throughout the state for many different things, criminal justice, but also for our economy. We have the excellent climate here to be able to grow hemp and marijuana successfully and really kind of make it a cash revenue for our farmers.
Do you think that would be possible, though, especially if you have a supermajority still with the Republicans in the House and Senate? It seems like that's something that would be really difficult to do if the Republicans were to maintain that control.
Yeah, well, ideally, we want to be able to leverage out the Republicans. There's a couple of things that they also want. I'm a constitutional carry guy, so immediately I would like to make sure that goes in as fast as possible. Whether it can be done by executive order or not, I'm not 100% sure, but I would definitely push legislation for constitutional carry. And then ideally, too, to get back with the economy, I'm looking to make North Carolina the 10th state that doesn't have income tax.
All right, so you want to eliminate the income tax for North Carolina?
That's correct.
So what would be the tax revenue mechanism then? Is it because you look at it and still teacher shortage, education still a major factor, and especially education funding in North Carolina, some of the lowest across the nation?
Yeah, so we have the education lottery, which only 23% of that goes in to fund our current education system. But our problems with education isn't necessarily with our funding, it's the way we fund it. I'm a big proponent of funding the students so the money would follow them. A lot of the Republicans are very familiar with it, with the voucher system. I think that's an excellent move. I'd like to keep government completely out of education, but for the short time, I think funding students instead of systems is the best way to go. And then ideally, you would have the teachers that have all of these students in there would ultimately get paid better. So once we have an education system that relies on competition, it's going to either make the public schools get better or it will do away with them completely. But if they can't do well and they can't pay the teachers well, then funding the students is the best way to go.
All right, and I think lastly here, as far as any voters who may be listening to this, what is your final sales pitch to them, and why Shannon Bray, why a Libertarian candidate this time around for governor in North Carolina?
Well, I'm fairly known in the libertarian circles now. A couple of elections ago, I was able to pull over 170,000 votes, so people do know who I am. As far as why. This is the best opportunity now to let the Republicans and the Democrats know that you're tired of those parties. In fact, if you vote into this election as an independent, you can actually raise our numbers up without the mantra of risking your vote or anything like that, because we already know that Stein and Robinson are going to advance on those tickets. Really, the only competitive race that we have right now is between the Libertarians. So getting the independent people out there and getting them voting, getting them involved in this process much earlier, and then also getting our names out there way before the general is one of the most important things that we're trying to do here. So I would, just encourage voters to check out my platform on shannonbray.us. And if you have any questions, reach out on social media, and I'm happy to address any questions anyone has.
All right, Shannon Bray, Libertarian candidate for governor there in North Carolina. Mr. Bray, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.